Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phil's Recap and Review. This is for The Sopranos, Season 3, Episode 2. Season 3, Episode 2. I'll try to pronounce the episode title in a second here, but I don't want to do it on point right there because I'll do it Proshai Livushka. Okay, I think I got the second word right, the first one wrong. If any Russian people, feel free to correct me with some how to spell it in the comment section or in the chat later. Everyone, thank you so much. Welcome back to the Sopranos cast. We are back from a little bit of a 1 week hiatus. We want to kind of do this every other week, but here we are, definitely getting 2 done a month at least. And tonight we're talking about a very fun episode, the second half of the premiere episode of Season 3, because as much as last episode was the first episode of Season 3, the more I read about Episode 2, and I mentioned this a little bit last time, they did show both of these episodes back to back at the same time, so they're both in a sense considered the premiere episode. But I'm not alone on this discussion. First of all, if you guys want to get your voice in, please do it. 781-990-8509. You can see that number on the screen right now. 781-990-8509. If you have any questions or comments about The Sopranos, share it, put it in there. Or if you're watching this later, you can leave them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Please make sure you check it out. We've done every episode up until now in some way, shape, or form. So we're excited. We're going to get through. This is basically 1/3 of the way through. So we're moving pretty quickly at this point, considering it was 900 days between 2 episodes. So follow us. We'll be doing this on Wednesday evenings around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twice a month. So if you're into The Sopranos and want to keep the discussion going, please join the fun. But I'm not alone tonight. I have with me the one and only Big Daddy Matt. How's it going tonight, Matt?
Yeah, I'm so excited to do this episode because the last one was, up until this point, I think the most disappointing one we've had so far.
Yeah, and I mean,
you're waiting for me then. Okay, so this is a great. They finally hit their stride at this point. Everything about this episode, the writing is absolutely incredible, with the exception of one line, which was put in there for no reason, and it's the rest of it is so well done. The acting is on point. The story is like they've just hit their groove at this point. There's no long drawn out, Pussy in what the hell was his name?
Pussy and Skip.
Skip, thank you. There's none of that nonsense. Like there's great Janice in this. There's great everyone in it. I believe it's the first time we see one of the best nemesises that Tony ends up having is in this episode.
Ralphie, yeah, this is Ralphie's first episode. This is, in a way, Janice's coming out party. There's some amazing moments. Maybe my favorite Christopher moment in the entire series is in this episode.
The end of the episode, you're saying?
Yes.
It's so well done. It's so well acted. It's so well written. It's like you're shocked someone could come up with that moment because it's such a real moment that he's having. It's so uncomfortable in this situation. But yeah, it's great.
And that's the thing about this episode, Matt. Not only is it deal with some future kind of mafia-driven stuff that we get on The Sopranos, it also deals with stuff that I think almost every person can relate to on some level. Dealing with going through an unfortunate family passing, or in this case, a fortunate family passing, but going through that problem and all the little things that come around it.
Tiny little things that never get discussed that are just so well, played out here.
Absolutely. Yeah. The awkward conversations, at least they didn't suffer, or the uncomfortable vibe that everyone has around them. All of those little things are really important in this episode, and they just add to the little texture of The Sopranos. And that's why I agree with you that this is one of those everything coming together moments. Yeah. And I think also gives you a little glimpse of what season 3 would have been. And one of those moments where you get to season 3 without the unfortunate events of this particular episode and the fact that Nancy Marchand passed away. So the Livia you get in this episode isn't real Livia. But before we get into this episode, we're going to watch this episode live. If someone hasn't joined us before, I'm actually going live in a different way. So I don't even know if this is going to be presented out to our usual Sopranos folks. So if you're watching this later at some point, or if you're watching us for the first time here, we do watch the episode live and talk about it in that sense. So if you want to watch it with us, you can watch it with us. But this is definitely one of the first, not one of the first, but is definitely one of the classic episodes of The Sopranos. But the Nancy Marchand, the Olivia that we get here, just told us. Oh, we got Dwarf Burger in the live chat right now. So the Livia that we get in this episode isn't the real Livia. It's previous to this year. I think it was the year before, there was the movie Gladiator. And there was one character in Gladiator that the actor passed away before. I think it was the guy that played Caesar, maybe, or maybe, I don't know the exact actor, but I remember they used the technology of bringing an actor that had passed back onto the screen. And basically, when Nancy Marchand died, they knew she was sick. They did not know she was going to die. It was her wishes. Some actors are like this. Some people work like this. She wanted to work until her last day. So she never expected it to be the next day. So she just kept going and working and working. And they came around for season 3, and it was a surprise when she passed away. So they had to sort of think on their feet and figure it out a little bit. So they needed Tony to have some sort of goodbye to his mother, considering everything that they led into it. So they decided to do this scene that we get in this episode, which, if people haven't seen this one in a while, they take composites from other Livias and they bring her back. We later see extended versions of this in some of the newer Star Wars movies with spoilers, I guess, with Carrie Fisher coming back and some other moments. Matt, don't get triggered because I mentioned new Wars stuff.
No, hopefully, like, Phil just spoiled it for you, and you don't bother seeing the movie. You'll be doing yourself a favor.
Good, fair. So yes. So this is a newer technology that they're using. If you really look closely and you know it's there, you can see she has different hairstyles between a couple of moments. There, it doesn't necessarily match, but the point of what we're seeing there is that Tony has forgiven his mother and is kissing her ass because she may testify against him in court. And to Dev's question in the live chat, yes, this is also the first episode, and Matt mentioned this earlier, of Joey Pantaleone, Joey Pants, who plays Ralphie on the show. And was Ralphie in the Goonies? Yes, that was one of his early roles. That he plays one of the Fratelli brothers, and that he was in that movie. He was also another one of his early roles that got him his start was Midnight Run. In fact, Midnight Run might have been his first movie, an underrated 80s movie starring.
Isn't he in? Is it Midnight Run or is it The Fugitive? Or is he in both of them?
He's in both of them. He's definitely in Midnight Run. He plays one of the bondsmen or something like that sells the thing to Taggart from Beverly Hills Cop and De Niro's character to try to get Charles Grodin. And we'll talk about that at a later date, Devin. We're gonna get into Trek in a second.
And then it's so weird watching this show because he's definitely a star after the show. The question is, was he a star at this point? He was in, by this point here, he had been in, or was just around the time of The Matrix. Memento had already happened. Those were other like big roles that he had. Those
would, I would say, those for me anyways, those would be the two biggest roles he had in the sense of what made Joey Pants to me. I remember him in Midnight Run, but it's not a character that I sort of followed particularly in that movie. I basically more followed or cared about De Niro. The first movies I remember caring about him and seeing what he can bring, that almost unique smarminess he can bring to a role, would be The Matrix and Memento. I think in both those roles he was more important, but it was a big deal to a sense with him coming on the show. Did you know who he was as he came onto the show, Matt, or were you introduced to him from there?
I wasn't watching the show yet until around season 4 or 5 live. So when he came on the show, it wasn't I wasn't watching this episode when it came out.
Right. No, I hear you. So, okay. So this...
It wasn't like Steve Buscemi coming on was a big deal. That was like a huge actor coming on. It didn't feel like that. It wasn't like Steve Buscemi getting on it.
Sorry, I was just sending out a live message. Yeah, Steve Buscemi was big, and especially considering they had been trying to get him for a while onto the show, and he had directed episodes because that was all he really had time to do because of, he's probably the biggest. Would you say Buscemi was the biggest star that they'd had on the show?
And it's so weird because if you think about it, like, name a movie Steve Buscemi's been in the last 10 years, and he's not like even a huge star, but everyone knows who he is. just because of his role in like the world of Tarantino and stuff.
Right, or in the Coen brothers, like his role in
right. Fargo.
He's in so many different movies, basically, is what it comes down to.
Huge, like if for people our age, Phil, Fargo, Reservoir Dogs, those are like huge movies from that time in our life. You know, everyone saw them that was our age, so we all know who he is. And he directed maybe the most famous episode, certainly the most highly acclaimed episode of The Sopranos.
Yeah, absolutely. Buscemi is even more of is an inside more than a big star. Yeah, he's like an insider. People know him from a lot of different things more than you would necessarily call him a star maker. I don't think does he have a lot of I don't know what's the word, starring roles where he's the main star. I don't think so. And I would say the same thing about Joey Pants. I can't remember a lot of roles where Joey Pantaleone is the main star of the movie.
Memento's the closest because he's the second main character in Memento, essentially.
Right.
And Fargo, Fargo and Reservoir Dogs, he's a big deal in both of them. I mean, Reservoir Dogs doesn't really have a main role, neither does Fargo for that matter, you know, with Buscemi, but
yeah, no, and I guess you're right about Fargo's probably the closest thing. But this is a very fun episode of The Sopranos that promises more to come. In the sense of like what is to come. We got the Jackie Jr. moment where Jackie Jr. just acts like a complete pompous jerkhole like he is in that particular part of the episode when he comes in not even dressed well, and we also get the litterings of another affair that Tony has later with Irina's cousin, the woman taking care of Livia with the one leg, that has the husband that's the knight in satin armor or whatever it is. Okay.
There's last thing I was going to say before we started.
Oh,
no,
please.
Forget it. Go. I'll come up with it at some point.
Did you lose it?
Yeah, no idea what it was.
Fuck. I interrupted you too soon and you lost it. So here we go. So basically...
Just a refresher for the reason Jackie Jr. is being such an asshole at this point. At this point here, he thinks he doesn't know where Uncle Richie is at this point. That's what he's, like he has no idea what happened to Richie, because Richie was like, he was on Richie's side against Tony, and now Richie just disappeared. So that's going to come out and be dealt with in later episodes.
Right. We also get a little bit of that. That's not the only Richie comment that we get in the episode. We also get a little bit of Janice talking about Richie. Oh, and that's the one thing the last thing I wanted to talk about before we start as well is that this is, you mentioned her before, but this is probably we've had her have big moments leading up to this, but this really is sort of a Janice coming out party. There is something about passing the torch for crazy succubus family member in Tony's life in this particular episode where and I've talked about this before, it gets mentioned a lot on the Talking Sopranos podcast, that Janice was not supposed to come back, or was not planned. There were no plans for Janice to come back after the Richie incident in the episode. When what happened to Nancy Marchand happened, they audibled and they decided to bring Janice back. And make her a main character. We also get the lead up to one of the craziest of all Janice's crazy, her problem with the leg and with the records. She knows everything that's in that house. She's cataloging it. It's all about making money. This whole thing is a money-making opportunity for her, to the point where she's at first being like, I'm not going to my own mother's funeral until Tony agrees to pay for it. And it's all just a big scam and a shroud. So this, in a lot of ways, is a big Janice coming out party. Like, let's see what she's really capable of as a character.
And she plays the character so well that if you met her in real life, the actress, I would legitimately not trust that woman whatsoever. I would think she's like totally has personality disorders because of how well she plays this character.
Yeah, 100%. And it's similar to I've heard her referred to this at times too as the female Tony. They do play brother and sister really well. You believe that relationship and you believe the dynamic of an unhealthy brother and sister relationship. And this might be the most we get of Barbara up until this point in this episode, and actually see her personality more, that both of them almost use her as a bargaining chip. When Janice isn't around, Tony can get her on his side. But the minute Janice shows up, Janice spins Barbara around her finger and is like, we have to give Mom a funeral procession. We can't just.
And they both hold her on a pedestal. Like, I think she's the youngest one, and Barbara gets her way.
Yep.
They both look up to her, and she's almost better than them, and they both know that.
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit in previous episodes. I don't think it was the last one, but in the sense that it seems like whatever Livia did to Tony and Janice, they both somewhat tried to shield Barbara from it a little bit. Like they were protecting her, even when Tony and Janice are going back and forth in the episode and yelling at each other. Tony uses it. You're making your sister cry. Barbara's upset now. Like almost like we can be assholes back and forth to each other, but we got to keep the little kid out of it. And right. I think that's interesting, and I do notice that a lot in some relationships when you have two brothers and sisters that everyone loves each other. It's not about loving each other. It's about being like fighty or whatever. The people, and you're in somewhat of a situation like that to a certain extent, where I think you and Michelle are great, but you can probably fight with Michelle a little bit more intensely than your other two.
More than anyone in the world, my emotions can get going at her like no
right.
other person.
That doesn't mean you don't love Mitch or your other ones just as much, or at least just as much. But like you're closer in age with Michelle. You guys grew up together in a sense, and the rest of the kids are all a great deal younger in the way that you guys were like, yeah, they're not dealing with our crazy, like the way we can go at each other. Like I've seen you two, like when you and two can say things to each other that you won't hear from other people, and right. I mean, you have a healthier relationship.
And my relationship with Michelle is great, and we're not abnormal.
Not even a little bit. You're not Tony, and I don't mean you're Tony and
right.
and his sister. I just mean Janice, but I just mean in the dynamic of the way the way they go at each other versus the way they go at Barbara.
Yeah, and a brother sister is different, very different than brother, because there's not that just. Like guys that grow up like the O'Connor brothers, or like groups of boys that we knew growing up together. They're the toughest kids in the world, the Phillipses, because they just beat the hell out of each other their whole life. Their whole childhood has dealt with that, and it's different with a brother and sister.
No, absolutely.
All right, let's get started. We're running our mouths here, and it's 6:25 already.
Absolutely. So here we go, everybody. Thank you so much to the people that did tune in. As I mentioned, I'm going live a little bit different, so I'm going to go back to the other way last time of actually creating an event. But thank you, those of you that are tuning in tonight. Great to see you, Jay, in the live chat. This episode is season 3, episode 2 of The Sopranos. We're going to do a 3, 2, 1. And
hold on, stop. Where are you right now? Did you
I'm at 0. I went back to 0-0. I'm at 0-0.
All right, so we're going to go 3, 2, 1, and then we hit start.
Yes, 3, 2, 1, and then start. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, start. And as we go into it, Dwarf says, good brother-sister relationship realistically made a show great. Always looking for Uncle Jordan's hidden gold. We do have a lot of Uncle Junior hidden gold in this particular episode. We didn't talk about Junior in the intro here, but we'll talk about him when we get to his scenes. It is important because he is the only one that's actually upset that Livia's dead. Because, and again, it's one of those things that, again, I don't want to make it seem like our relationship's similar to Livia, but you and I could fight. You could think I was an asshole, and still, when you hear if you and me were two of the only people of our generation alive and I passed, you would be like, oh my God, what a fucking blow. I've known him since elementary school. Like Junior and Livia must have known each other years before Johnny and her were married. Like they go back to, they go way back. Hey, we got Tom himself. Don't worry, Tom himself. We will be talking about the episode enough that you don't necessarily have to watch this live with us. We just do this in lieu of actually taking notes. But we both have watched this episode a few days ago, or yesterday for me. So the episode is fresh. So we're going to be talking about it more in a recap sense. So we may talk over it. We may go through it. And as I've mentioned many times, if you've never watched The Sopranos, turn this off right the fuck now. Peter Griffin, Brian Dodd.
But you already had COVID to watch this and catch up. So if you're not caught up at this point, there's no excuse.
So here we go. We got a couple people just popping in the live motherfucking chat. It's the live motherfucking chat. We got Tom himself, Brian Dodd, Phil Neo, my guy. Great to see everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Oh, there we go. Now the chat's on the screen. Sorry, guys. So, and then this whole section of the show that we didn't even talk about yet. That, again, is one of those first signs. We see it a lot. I love how they do this from an editing standpoint of seeing the backwards thing. It starts to get into the interesting aspect of what The Sopranos does to play with shooting scenes and everything like that, to show you sort of like a rewind time. Again, this just shows the level that the production team's on. The other aspect of this scene that we're about to see in a second is one of the first reminders that Tony is a fucking piece of shit. Don't you ever fucking forget it. This is such an aggressive douchebag. This is the most aggressive douchebag racist thing we've ever seen a character on the show do. I've ever seen a main...
It's the most racist I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's also probably the most horribly racist thing that a lead character on a show next to Archie Bunker has ever said or done, and that you appreciate, that's your lead character here of the show. And it's important, though, and I think David Chase made sure, even no matter how many people like Tony, he always made sure he reminded you what kind of guy this dude is. And Carmela's the same way here. She's just like, I'm taking a different tactic. Don't fuck this up for me, she says later. I mean...
Yeah, the kid, he's Ditsun.
Yeah, and he's a horrible person. They all are. And Meadow, you gotta wonder, is Meadow's got to know her father's like this, or is this her discovering he's like this? He's actually really like this. 'Cause
I don't think she's ever
been in a situation like that before to be tested. Yeah, and also we see later in the episode when she sees him talking to. This is something that Michael Imperioli pointed out, that later in the episode we see Meadow watch Tony at the funeral talking to a black man and a Jewish man, when Noah happens to be black and Jewish. That's the
worst line in the show right there.
Which one?
She goes, I'm gonna go grab the Bare Naked Ladies CD. There is no reason whatsoever to say Bare Naked Ladies there.
It's true.
But she says, I'm gonna leave the room so I can go grab a Bare Naked Ladies CD.
And I don't get
the line I hate, but go ahead.
And I don't get why she leaves them alone, knowing she can already vibe that her dad's being in dickhead mode here. But at the end of the episode, she looks and sees Tony talking to these two people, and she gets a look on her face like, my dad's the biggest hypocrite in the world, and she knows that he's a fucking bullshit artist and secretly just a fucking racist asshole that knows how to play the game. And in that moment, he decided not to fuck with Noah. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, Dwarf. She's written smart. She must know that her father is this fucking piece of shit. She must know. He has to have made the comments at the kitchen table before.
So we do understand each other.
He just keeps doing it.
Charcoal briquette.
He just doesn't stop.
What's your problem? I think you know what my problem is.
And I love when this kid talks about it later, and you can see it on his face. He's like, I wanted to hit him. And he also doesn't tell Meadow. He doesn't say anything to her. They mention that later.
Does she know? Do you think he knows here who Tony is?
Yes. Yes, because he already made the comments about Scarface, and earlier in this scene, he starts talking about mafia movie type stuff.
Right.
To be like, see, I know it. I'm cool with you. I'm in with the mafia pictures, and he's a Hollywood kid. So when he thinks about mafiosos, he's thinking about Don Corleone in this respectful, majestic sort of thing. This is Is this world a pre-Goodfellas world? Does Goodfellas exist in this world because there's so many of the actors that exist in both shows? I know that we know The Godfather does, but I don't think do they ever talk about Goodfellas on the show?
Probably not, because Michael Imperioli is a big part of that show.
And a lot of people. I was rewatched Goodfellas yesterday. There's a handful of Soprano actors in it. Ahmed says, I hate Noah. He's a snob and laughably talks shit about threatening Tony of all people. Especially at the end. He does show himself to be a complete douchebag. All Tony's fucking horribleness aside, Noah does turn out to be a pretty big a piece of shit later. He basically gets his father to put a restraining order on Meadows' roommate because she's like talks to him or something, or maybe he had sex with her. They make it vague, and then he takes Meadows' virginity, and then he basically just stops calling her a couple weeks afterwards. So yes, he is a fucking douchebag. Oh, Matt meant the band. Yeah, Tom's heard you say bare naked ladies, and he thought this was going to turn into a different kind of. They do say Henry Hill a couple times, says Dwarf. But they could be referring to the real person. That makes me think that there's not the movie in this world. But they do talk about The Godfather several times. And yes, in that scene where they talk to Noah later on, where he's talking shit, he's like, I would have popped him in the face, Tony. You know. Sure you would have. Okay, here we go. The last scene that we get of Livia in the entire show. How do you think this works, Matt? From watching it back. I'm
watching on a tiny screen right now, so I'm not.
So it doesn't bother you so much, right?
I wish the Lord would take me now. Well, in the meantime.
So this is Tony.
I mean, these are all things she's already said before, right?
Yeah, they're all moments from other episodes that they're putting in. Yes.
And they just splice them in.
She's going to finish baby journals from long time ago.
But the point of this whole scene and what we're supposed to get from this is in the last period of time since the final episode of the other season, he has made peace with his mother in threat to try to get her not to testify against him. And she
still gets fired up.
Yeah, he still gets fired up. He can't deal with her. And Dwarf, yeah, Lorraine Bracco is
a main character.
A main character. And initially they wanted Ray Liotta to play Tony Soprano. And we get another Goodfella character in this particular episode playing Carmela's mother, who plays Edie Falco, who plays Lorraine Bracco's mother in Goodfellas. Philly Leotardo's in Goodfellas playing
and he's in Casino too.
Billy Batts. Carlo's in it, I believe. Polly fucking Walnuts is in it.
That doesn't look real.
That looks fake. Yeah, that one looked particularly fake. When she keeps her head down and moving, she looks good enough. When she puts her head up, she looks a little bit too much like
right there. She's made that move so many times.
And Steve Sciarippa mentioned this as well, and having him talk about it, saying that he felt like Gandolfini acted a little bit differently than he usually does with the character because of being somewhat uncomfortable in this moment. And I can kind of see it. Now you know it. Now that I know it, you can kind of see it. Like, he's stiff. He doesn't really have the same, he must be doing this to like a tennis ball or someone wearing a Olivia wig. And you can tell he's a little, and his last words to his mother are, do whatever the fuck you want. And he walks out of there. And she literally ends up dying in 5 or 10 minutes from this. And toast to Livia, and I'll take one more to Livia in a second. Cheers, everybody.
If this is your first time tuning in, you don't know this. Phil has kind of a crush on Olivia. It's pretty gross.
No. It's a beautiful thing, Matt. And I will transfer my complete soprano crushness from Livia in this episode all the way to Team Carmela at this point. And now it's going to all be about Carmela in the pantsuits.
I mean, the correct transfer is to Janice, just so you know.
No, that's not happening. No. I'm sure Aria Totoro, whatever her name is, in real life could charm the pants out of me. It's not about the way she looks. It's that personality. I'm not getting any of myself close to Janice. That's not. I'm sure she has a charming personality in real life, and I'd have a great time with her, possibly if I was lucky enough. But
she has to know how racist he is, because when he goes, if you know what's good for you, you'll keep walking. Like, so she knows that bringing that kid home.
Right. So was that putting him to the test, essentially, to use a poker message? Like, she wants to fuck with him a little bit. Is she?
No, but I don't think she wants to. I don't think she like met Noah with the intention of fucking with him. I think she just doesn't give a fuck and said, I'm going to do this regardless of what he says.
Right. And I do think, absolutely, that scene was completely unnecessary. Chase could have made this a sudden death. In real life, all deaths are sudden. We could have seen a scene of Tony walking in on her corpse.
100%. Nothing actually happens in that scene.
Yeah, Ahmed is, I would back in the point, as much as I'm a Livia fanboy kind of thing, they did not need that scene. I agree with you.
Right, and here we literally 2 minutes later.
Yep. She's dead. I think that's the first example that we get, and I want to keep an eye on this because I think it's more prevalent in the later half of The Sopranos than the first 2 seasons. The David Chase getting a little tricky-dicky with stuff that he doesn't need to get tricky-dicky with. And things that maybe go on a little bit too much that don't need to. Tom Finnery, when we get to that stuff, I'm going to be talking about that a lot. So I think there is something to be said. I think there's a lot to be said about Ahmed's comment in the live chat. I think it was kind of unnecessary, even though it was. I don't even think it was well done. I was gonna say I think the best actor in that scene is what's her name, is the nanny, is the one-legged nanny. She plays that part so convincing that I was convinced the actress really did have one leg. Like, she plays that part so well. Her limp is straight on. Like. Excellent. And that's a great moment for Tony, too, as he's processing with all these feelings. And to Ahmed's point again, I feel like it would have made this scene even stronger if, we just get a phone call or something. They could have done a phone call or something, and then we see Tony's reaction coming in, having not even seen her. So I feel like you could have this.
Yeah, the Russian could have called and said, Tony, your mother. And, that's how it happens. Yeah. Overhear the call from her to Carmela, and Carmela tells Tony. And then
Dasviana, goodbye, and it's done. So everyone, this scene coming up is another scene I do want to keep track on as we see the little dog in person in the street as we say goodbye to Livia. I do want to make note to that. Carmela mentions this scene later in one of my favorite episodes, Whitecaps, where they get into a fight where when she finds out that Tony had sex with this girl, she's like,
that hasn't happened yet, has it?
No, they don't have sex for a while.
Right,
I believe they don't have sex till she's taking care of Junior.
Junior.
After Junior starts to get
that's
a little
the
weird.
problem with you and I having that 900 days between our 2 episodes. I don't know.
I don't
keep track back that far.
I don't know. But Carmela mentions that they drank vodka together, and I liked her, and I talked about your mother's alopecia and you had sex with that woman. Tom himself says, I won't blame Phil for a bizarre TV crush. He did me when I told him I loved to bang Velma from Scooby-Doo. I pulled no problem with that, especially the Velma from the Scooby-Doo movie, which starring Freddie Prinze Jr. That Velma particularly is better looking than Sarah Michelle Gellar in my mind. Okay, so this is an interesting.
I don't love this scene either. I mean,
okay, this is where I'll not argue with you or whatever, but this is my favorite AJ. AJ in this period, not young Elmer Fudd AJ when he's a kid. Sorry, not old douchebag AJ. This angry, younger, punky sort of Fredo Soprano.
Pantera shirt, you have the Pantera shirt.
Yeah, listening to Slipknot in this episode, like that AJ, going downstairs. Grandma, are you here? Yes, it is Linda Cardini. Yes, fucking A, Linda Cardini. Yes. Amazing, beautiful, early crush from Freaks and Geeks. And now she's on Dead to Me with what's her name, Kelly Bundy. Why am I blanking on Kelly Bundy's name right now? Christina Applegate.
Christina Applegate, yeah.
Yeah, Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini. If you haven't seen that show, Cardini. If you haven't seen that show, Matt, I do recommend it. It's a good show. We got Muhammad in the live chat. Great to see Muhammad. Toast to you, my friend. Tom himself, great to see you. And thank you for everyone popping on in here to join us for this Sopranos Wednesday. So how did AJ go from Slipknot Pantera to Sugar Cult Teeny Popper band poster in his room? I love how awesome Ahmed and Bloody Talker. Great to see you. I love how Ahmed is picking up because whoever did the set dressing didn't hold up their end of the bargain.
Right.
And doesn't.
They just Googled what are 16-year-olds into or 15-year-olds and like, oh, they're into this, this, and this. This is the age of like, this is when like Limp Bizkit was out and like System of a Down. So like that's all the stuff they would have put him into along with like just weird teeny bopper shit.
Okay.
Oh, here's the sister.
No, yeah, this is probably the most we get of Barbara without Janice around. And we find out that Livia didn't want any remembrance at all. Do you want remembrance at all, Matt? Do you want people like, or do you just?
It depends who's alive. Like,
would you want to do something like Steve Sharippa on the Talking Sopranos podcast talks about how he wants to record a recorded message where he shit talks everyone that he's always wanted to shit talk, that he's taken notes his whole life, to just treat it like a roast where he's roasting everyone at the funeral. Would you want to do something like that? Would you want to?
No, it depends if my wife's alive or not, because she's the only one that like is gonna have to answer for my bullshit if I do.
That's
something
true. That's true. I hope both of you live to 1,000 years old. But if Jen would definitely have to answer, she'd be baking a lot of pastry apologies to a lot of people.
The beginning of the just super awkwardness is here. Like the Russian kills it. She's just like, let's do shots of vodka. Like that's what we do. We do that for everything. Like we're gonna do it when your mom dies too.
This leads into again one of my favorite scenes because I feel like I've been in this moment with you and Dev and Joe and everyone, or if we're somebody that we know passes unfortunately, and to one of us, and we're all care, but you're in that moment where you're like, yep, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, so this sucks.
I'm
here, but
what you doing? What you doing? Okay. I'm sorry. I mean, it's all like because you care about. There's just nothing to say. And on top of this, you get all the Soprano aspect of this, which adds more drama to the situation because of.
Oh, and because he's the boss. Like you have to. How do you not?
Yeah. What you gonna do? That second, what are you gonna do? Cracks me up. And also, Matt, on top of that, that they all know that Livia tried to kill him.
Right.
So
and these here, right there, that's the three closest people to him in the world.
Absolutely. And is this the first time that we see them, these two?
Again, this is the problem we have with
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is. Oh, and
the only reason I don't know if it is because of what he says at the end. That would be a wild first introduction to
right,
him, but I don't know that.
But it would also make sense that we haven't seen them until this point because they were forced to stay away at every family gathering because they didn't want to bump into her.
That explains why we haven't seen them.
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually perfect. It actually works out really perfect.
We're gonna look really dumb if they've been in episodes.
I don't care. I already looked dumb on my Cobra Kai review when I said some guy had passed away, and everyone's in the comments like, "No, Ed Asner's still alive. Don't be an asshole." So my apologies to Ed Asner. I hope you live to 192.
I thought Ed Asner was dead too when I watched it, and then I was like, "Holy shit, Ed Asner!"
Joe and I were
alive. He's in this show.
Dude, Joe and I talked about it for like 2 minutes. We were like, "Oh, rest in peace. You're awesome, Ed Asner." And someone comes in the comment section, "Ed Asner's still alive, guys." I'm like, shit. So this is awesome. I love listening to the two of them argue, almost as much as like you would see Sybil Moonlighting or Ted Danson and Shelley Long argue. There's almost these two arguing are some of the best television characters. Quark and Odo from Deep Space Nine. Characters like arguing, hating each other. When Janice and Tony start going at each other, I'm just in stitches laughing. And this whole thing, we mentioned it before, is all about Janice fleecing him for $1,200. And then we get that little. And did you notice that Janice's fiance is like they're working at Kenny Rogers Chicken, and she answers the phone, something garage, like.
Yeah.
What kind of, again, to repeat something with the Talking Sopranos, what kind of scams does she have going on that we just don't know about? Like Janice is like running some crazy scam. That guy's probably paying all her rent. She's working 1 day a week at Kenny Rogers or something. Like what scams does Janice have going?
Of all the versions of Janice we get over the course of the show, of which there are many, many different versions, the most normal Janice there is Mafia wife Janice.
Yes.
That's the most normal Janice.
Yeah, it's the last Janice.
Janice and Richie that was actually the second most normal. Janice and Ralphie is insane. Janice and Richie, as it turns out, was insane. The guy she brings back the born again Christian. I don't even remember when that happens, but that does happen. At
I
some point.
think it's at the end of this season. He has risen.
Is it before or after Ralphie?
Oh no, I think it might. I think that might have already happened. I think that's a good mother crapping lyric, Janice. Like when she's like writing the song.
No, she was just with Richie.
Okay,
when was there time for that?
I think it's maybe then,
she wasn't in season 1.
Maybe it's
she
in
came
season 4
season
though.
2 with Richie.
We'll keep an eye. We'll keep an eye on that. I can do a little research in a second here. So
right.
Janice looks like every angry Italian woman I've ever met in Canada. They always have an opinion on everything. So let's see. He has risen, because I do know it's the name of the episode is He Has Risen.
No, I guess not.
Is
No heart and no brains, it's all you've got. You'll need it.
He Has Risen? Oh, it's coming up in 5 episodes. It's right before. So
Okay,
he's
Ralphie must be with what's her name?
Your dog's name.
Yeah,
Ralphie's having sex with Matt's dog, Rosalia Prio.
it's true. She's very old at this point.
Yeah, she probably couldn't handle a guy like Ralphie. So the FBI is very perfunctory in this episode. They're just in the background. We also find out that another one of Tony's capos is, I believe this is the first time we see that he's also a rat as well as Pussy. He's their replacement for Pussy. And I also want to mention that we have a voicemail to play from our number one fan of the Sopranos cast, Phyllis. Thank you for leaving us a voicemail. We will not forget to play your message. We'll be playing it at the end of the evening tonight. Thank you, Phyllis, so much for giving us a call. And anyone else that wants to call on in and leave their thoughts on Soprano episodes, you can do that at any point in time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 781-990-8509. Yes.
So this is our first time seeing Ralphie here.
The very first time we're seeing Ralphie. And Ralphie does have a little Poochie the dog feel here, which is what I call when they act like a character has been around forever. But it works with Ralphie more than some other Sopranos characters where it's just like, oh, Steve Buscemi was Charlie Uncle Tony or Charlie Uncle's.
Well, that is the only nice thing about being in the mafia is you can just say, well, they've been in jail for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. But this might be the best single introduction to a character ever, because this is a big Ralphie episode too. We get to see who Ralphie is. We get to see how he talks shit to Tony like no one will talk shit to Tony, especially a little bit like right here in this scene. Like he is mouthy. He's very fucking mouthy.
Be quiet, Albert.
Talk to him. He lit up 2 of my dumpsters.
What's the matter with you? Don't they-
And we also come to find out later on, it gets recanonized in Sopranos, that we've talked about age a lot, Matt.
This guy over there keeps
Tony, Ralphie, and Sil are all, and Jackie Sr. are all basically the same age. They're all the group of friends. They're you, me, Matt, Nick, and you, me, Matt. You're Matt. Devin.
Silvio feels older than all of that.
But he's not. I believe Silvio grew up with them. I think he's the same in that crew. I think he was part of the young, we sold weed, we thought we were badass, the Jackie, Tony, Ralphie crew.
You just can't see him with long hair. You know, like I picture Tony in the 70s, like
and
listening to Bachman Turner Overdrive, like with long hair. I pictured that.
And I'm guessing Tony B was a part of that crew too. And that was sort of the crew that he ended up going to jail from. And Joey Pantalone is a gem. It's a shame we don't see this guy in movies and shows. I would love to see him get a show. Like he could get not necessarily a part exactly like this, but he could have a Ozarks Breaking Bad like show led by him. Like I do think he has that kind of talent. You know, he
was on what the hell was the show he was on right after this? Boardwalk.
Oh yeah,
Boardwalk Empire.
I forget he's on Boardwalk. Yeah, but
he's like a main character in it, isn't he? I only watched like 1 or 2 episodes.
But Ahmed's talking about that we don't see him often anymore. You don't see Joey Pants in a lot of things in modern times. And this scene, just before we get past it, is this line right here, and that whole intro is a homage recreation of a scene from Godfather 1 when, spoiler alert, Sonny gets killed, and I'll do all my services, all my tricks, Don Corleone. And Tony kind of shuts this up. And this is where the Janice game starts. Because that's okay, again, here's the question, put you to the test. I hope it doesn't happen. Your parents die. They have in their will that they don't want any remembrance. do you honor their wishes, or are you like, we have to have a remembrance that makes us look like assholes?
Well, she was Catholic, but not religious.
Depends if the other see, the thing is this. All right, if they both died together, because if one dies, the other one gets to make that decision. Their decision's going to trump all the kids.
But I'm saying
if it's
one
my stepfather, I don't make the decision. For my father, we didn't have a remembrance. We had just like
I do know what Mom's wishes were.
a shindig at the house.
Small funeral. No, it was nothing. It was like a tiny funeral for my dad. It was immediate family.
Mandrell, we got Mandrell in the live motherfucking chat. Great to see you, Mandrell. When Matt,
if my mom said she wanted nothing, no, we'd probably do something.
Mm-hmm.
My mom has so many friends; it would be messed up not to.
Yeah. When Matt pictures Tony in long hair, Phil was thinking back to when Carmella had firm titties. I don't have to think back; she still does. We see that in season 4. How Edie Falco is a very beautiful woman. So right here, Janice is this becomes the Janice show. She's gonna have people sharing memories, and I'll say it because I've dealt with people like this. I fucking hate people that tell you how to grieve. You know, the people that when you're going through a funeral, the family that's like telling you what you need to do. You need to say special remembrance. We need to pass the rock around, and everyone's gonna say something special about Phil. No, if anyone's doing that after I'm dead, tell them throw the rock at their face. I'm saying it right now. If someone's trying to do that shit at everyone say something nice about. No, say what you want to say. Say the truth. If you want to mention something, if you want to talk about it, it's great.
Actually, that's good.
Again, one of the best Melfi scenes that I would say one of my favorite all-time Melfi scenes here. She's just poker face. Fuck this bitch. Fuck this bitch. Your mother was a horrible person. What'd she do to you? She tried to kill you. Fuck. I love that attitude. And to get personal for a second, serious for a second, the thing that she talks about here is something I kind of had to deal with partially. My mother had passed, or not, my mother had an intense stroke and developed vascular dementia, and sort of her mind started to really go. And after about 5 years of her dwindling to the point where she could only say one word and they had to change her diaper, in my mind, I felt at times like I wished that, she would, especially knowing my mother's wishes when she was alive, to not be, as she put it, a vegetable. Wanting her to go, and then I felt like I was shitty because I was wishing those things, and Milfy talks about it's a tough thing. It's sort of weird thing to think about, but it's common. People do think that when you have a sick parent, a parent that's lost the ability to experience joy, as Livia Long has, because maybe Junior knew a real Livia, the Livia that could smile, but Livia's long since joy. She wants to die. For Tony to just kind of wish that along isn't, out of all the horrible things Tony does in this episode or says, that's not even part of it. He's not a bad son. She's a bad mother.
She ruined my father's life. Oh, yeah.
But he wasn't her
Tom,
son.
never stop the tangents, my friend.
Come on, that's a matter of
Bloody Talker says, yeah, I plan on having money set aside for a massive party when I died. Everyone is getting fucked up and laid. I like that. That's a good thought. And anyone in the comments section that's watching this, tell me a little bit. What would your idea of your perfect? Money's not an issue. Even magical. You snap your fingers and leave your wishes. What if anything? Or if you just don't give a shit, say that as well. Because some people could say, I've heard people say, I don't want anything because I don't want to make my family pay for that. I'd rather them pocket that money. The average fucking funeral is at minimum $15,000 or something like that. It's at minimum. I'm saying if you go dirt poor on everything, small headstone, sort of all that sort of shit, you're still looking at $10,000 to $15,000 most likely. It's disgusting. We may be bereaved, but we're fucking idiots. But that's a great scene with Tony and because, again, I think anyone who's ever had a sick family member can kind of relate, I think, in a sick, lost their joy kind of person can relate to what Milfy is saying in that moment. And in trying to absolve Tony for some of his guilt. Because, like I said, I don't think he's a bad son. Dwarfburger wants a Viking funeral. We can make that happen, Dev.
Here's Janice at her absolute best.
Oh, yeah,
Hiding.
trying to find buried treasure.
Yeah.
trying to find One-Eyed Willie's treasure right now. Or Lebowski style. What, you want your ashes poured over
in what's the hell's his name?
Steve Buscemi in Donnie's face. Oh no, in
no, but when he dumps it out, it just blows up in his face.
Yeah,
It's
John
amazing.
Goodman's face. Do you want your ashes spread in Joe's hair or something like that?
No, please. That's not where I want to spend eternity.
So I like Tony in this scene as he's trying to be a good brother. Like, this is him trying to make up with her to a certain extent.
All women are not cut out to be martyrs.
Is that a slam at me?
She can't take it.
Is that Harpo's?
That's one of the funniest Janice moments. The funniest Janice moment is her in anger management. It's like that whole scene where the girls try to explain to her.
That's one of the most fucked up things Tony does, is that to her. That's something only a sibling can do and get away with.
Oh, when he breaks, yeah, and that's another.
Only a sibling can do that.
That's such a sibling thing. That I have two cousins that I've definitely that are two close brothers, and I've seen when you're feeling good, I've seen them both do that to each other at different times. And that is definitely a brothers or brother and sister thing. You're pissed off that your sibling is happy, and you're like, you saw the same shit I did. You can't be this happy,
Right.
and you just bring them down to your level. Oh my goodness. Let me think. You can. Yes, Tom. You can in your funeral. You can have a life-size Linda Cardini doll. That is allowed.
Cardellini.
Cardellini. Thank you, Matt.
I think that's. Well, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's spelled Cardellini.
You're probably
It
right.
sounds like a kind of pasta. So
It's delicious kind of pasta.
There's your favorite
Oh, look
angel.
at her. She's beautiful. That's her in her Cheers form. She was playing playing Frasier's mother. She is not. That's one of those under-known factors that Tony Soprano and Frasier share a mother.
there's my dog.
There's your dog. Yeah, good dog. Good girl. And I think it's interesting that this is her best line. This is some of their best acting ever on the show. And then we go to Furio and your girl and
Yeah, just some. I mean, this is so the time period.
Yeah.
Cheap plastic bongs and
not clearing the tube either. I'm bothered by the stale smoke in which Adriana gets here because she's the third one on a full. They can't even clear that shit. Ahmed says, Phil, you need to see season 4 of Fargo. That season deals with old school Italian gangsters and sibling rivalry. Fargo's one of those shows that I've saved. It's like one of those shows I know I'm going to like when I watch, but I haven't watched it yet, and I can't wait to watch it. Do the Coen brothers have anything to do with the production of the show, or is it just inspired by the property, licensed by them? I know I often get heard when I talk about Better Call Saul being the best show on television. The other one that usually gets mentioned in that conversation currently right now is Fargo. I hear a lot of people on my Better Call Saul streams that say you need to watch Fargo too. It's a great show.
how can Junior not do any better than Bobby Bacala for who to walk around with? You're the head of a mafia family, and your thug is the goofiest, most harmless person in the show.
Oh, leave Bobby Bacala alone. He's important. He becomes Tony's number 2 basically. Coen brothers hate it, but the showrunner Noah Hawley is a genius, and he made Legion. Oh, cool. That's another show I've heard great things about. So yeah, but that's the whole thing with Junior. He's just, how can you make as much money as Junior's made over the course of his life and live in that piece of shit house? With
He's got money.
He's got money. He's been making money as Johnny's number 1 essentially for his whole life. And if Junior's living in that house and he's paying money cash.
I think he has, at least up to this point. We also only see him under house arrest. I think he has a house in Florida, doesn't he?
Oh, the Boca place. Yeah, he does have a Boca place. Oh, this is the scene I was talking about earlier with the that we see Meadow looking at Tony talk to those two characters and give this he's a fucking hypocrite.
I didn't
look.
realize that until right now.
Yeah, but that's what that was for, I believe, because it basically represents Noah there.
He makes that line where he says, I have businessmen, I have business associates, and they don't want their kids with my daughter, and I don't want my daughter with their kids.
Yep. And this scene right here is where I love this. I love how Junior's just I'm gonna fucking I love the balls on Junior. I just love the balls on fucking Junior. He just goes up to Carmela. He's like, listen, motherfucker.
What do you want?
I'm hoping that we can use this sad occasion to put bitterness and sore-headed feelings aside.
Behave how Tony wants. I don't want to add to his stress.
There they are.
And then that's all Junior need to hear. Like, that's enough for him. And so he's just like, hey, and he just goes and pinches the shit out of AJ.
Oh, but God, he should have ripped his cheek right there.
AJ's your bane right now that Skip is gone. We're leading into the AJ that you hate.
That's the real discussion that we have later on is who's worse, Walt Jr. or AJ. But we're not getting into that.
We'll get to that. In fairness, to the point to add a little crumb to that discussion, AJ gets a lot more to do. So we know who AJ is more as a person. Walt Jr. is a better person. Anyways, let's get back to this point. But AJ's a idiot. But he doesn't like breakfast as much. So I like how this is an interesting moment where Junior still thinks he's or still like talks the shit like I'm boss of this family, but he just doesn't give a fuck anymore.
I'm on the street. That's the arrangement. Stay home, clip your coupons, be a happy man.
Good, I grant you that.
I love this line.
This economy is so robust, you get credit for shit you had nothing to do with. Fucking chinks and housewives have been football.
You better be finished.
Oh my god. But that's the thing about Junior. Junior knows how to cut through the crap, and that's what I like his character. He's right. Is Tony a great boss, or is Tony taking advantage of the particular economy and just balancing that off? As the more we learn about Tony as time goes on, is he a good boss?
Yes.
You think he is? You think he's a good mafia boss?
Compared to Phil Leotardo, yes.
Compared to Carmine Sr.?
No fire. Tony doesn't want any fire.
Compared to what we see about Jackie Jr.? I mean Jackie Sr.?
I think Johnny Sack would have been a good boss.
Right, Johnny Sack. Except he gets really emotional with the Ginny thing, and almost gets himself killed because, you know.
I think Tony gives. I think part of this comes out. I don't know if he would have been this way if he wasn't seeing Melfi. I think he tends to think about things, give it more thought than most other people would.
Yeah. No. Fair.
Whenever any, except for Syl. Syl obviously thinks stuff out to no end. But like, you know, there's lots of scenes where someone like Paulie has this like guttural reaction, or Christopher always does, or someone does. Tony tends to be more measured about it and has thought stuff out.
No, absolutely, and I think we're to think that Tony is smarter than the average bear here to a certain extent. I don't know if that necessarily makes him a great boss, but we'll see. As we're leading into some of my favorite Soprano moments of all time are still yet to come in this episode, as we're getting into the end of this funeral here. Oh, and I learned about this in the Talking Sopranos cast. That priest that we see briefly there is the same priest that Paulie went to and starts yelling at him that I'm cutting you off. I was supposed to be protected from this shit. And Meadow is just shooting him death rays the whole fucking episode, which I love.
And again, the kids, Meadow had a great relationship with her grandmother.
AJ had a decent one as well, but he complains about it later. You made me go see my grandmother when he gets into like his post suicide stuff. So here we go. We start. This is the Janice moment that we were talking about. Janice gets.
She was much work. With an end, she defeated.
Janice immediately. She doesn't want to hear any of this.
Anyway, we're not going to be needing your services anymore, obviously. I'll be moving into the house. So if you could just get your stuff out of there by this weekend, I think that would be good.
I stay there only during week when my fiance has his children with him. Tony says I can continue situation till Bill and me find house.
See, Tony should have consulted me first. I'm going to be living at 55 Benedict. While we
Just immediately, like, hammers down the shit.
It's so Janice right away. That's what I'm saying. If I met her in real life, I never trust this woman.
No, she hits the ground running. Like, always moving, always manipulating. I've heard her described a couple times, again, on Talking Sopranos and other situations, as the female Tony. I mentioned that earlier. I think she is to a
Yeah,
certain.
but no, because
Tony has more
Tony's-
people skills.
Tony has more of a conscience too, I think, honestly, than she does.
Yes. She's the most fucked up and evil of all the Sopranos.
I mean, she was trying to have Tony killed. She was encouraging Richie to kill him. She's that mentally ill for power.
Yeah, she's Livia's daughter. She's Livia's daughter.
Tony could have whacked Uncle Junior. He could have done that many times, but there is that element of respect that he has that she doesn't.
So we get a little flashback, so the arty scenes make sense for anyone that forgets about it here. As we, I think, into Ahmed's point earlier on, I think a series of moments like this, if you wanted to make sure you had Nancy Marchand on this particular episode, you could have achieved the same thing with a couple of little flashback scenes like this. Tony, right when she dies, having like a moment of having a flashback of the last time he talked to her. Just get that last scene when he's in the room with Janice, and Janice leaves and he's yelling at her. Like, replay that scene. When did I ever do anything? Children are like dogs. You know, just that one moment. You just like you have them flash in her head, her face going, "Children are like dogs." You know, or
He could even be in a meeting with Melfi and have a flashback. Like, he could be talking about it, have a flashback to that, or when she laughs at him when he falls down, which is
great.
she's crying and laughing at the
same time. Yeah, that's one of the best Livia moments. It shows her. It shows her duplicity. It shows her duplicity excellently. So this is a moment right now where Tony is watching her from a distance, and he sees that she can play the game, and she's repeating what he says. At least she didn't suffer. At least she didn't suffer. Like, she's doing what he is, and then she notices that they're watching, and she just gets a death stare, like, "Fuck you, asshole. Goodbye." So I'm appreciating Janie Lynn's performance as Meadow more on this particular watch through than I think I have before. I think I underestimated her performance on some level on some of my original watches because of everything else going on. But she plays Meadow when she gets her opportunities. She takes advantage of them. She definitely gets across that she's smart. She has Tony's tactical mind, but she's smart enough to know she doesn't want to be a part of this. And as time goes on, she accepts it a lot more and is proud of what her father does for her. But so I get her arc, you know, in a way that I don't get AJ's. I don't think he's a good actor. I don't think he pulls it off even with what they give him. Like, I think there's especially the later stuff that they give him.
This was our first veto too.
Yes, it was our first veto. No, it was our first veto being veto.
Our third veto. There's two other vetoes before this, but it's our first one as veto.
It's our first veto being veto. Yes.
There's Vito buying pastries, and then there's Vito that shows up to build a ramp for Beansy.
Oh my fucking god! So here we go. Here's fucking Janice doing the Janice game, and the rush.
The performance by Michael Imperioli is absolutely incredible here.
And everybody in this scene is amazing, but you're right. When we get into the Michael Imperioli's thing, and when they cut away from him, and then he come back and he's still talking, it's just fucking hilarious. This is so great, and they're just both already on the couch. Him and Adriana just on the couch, and this is another episode that gets referred to later on by Carmela. I wasn't even thinking about this, but this is the second time that later at one of the second funniest moments in any Soprano episode, definitely in the top 5, the intervention episode, where I know for a fact you were high on something at my mother-in-law's thing, and Tony gets all hoity-toity about this at my own mother's funeral.
Right. This is such a great scene for just the awkwardness, like you said, of when this shit happens in real life.
Yes, 100%. This is like, I've been at.
Let's listen to my mom's favorite song while everyone just stands around awkwardly. It's so awful.
And I don't want to say this in a jestful way, but it's in a way of saying it in jest to not focus on the reality of it. I feel like I've been in this situation with you more than once. You know, like that we've been at someone we know that had passed, unfortunately, and we're standing in this circle somewhere dealing with shit like this. Like I feel like I've been here with you.
Yeah.
And or even in like you're sitting in the audience listening to a family member tell a sad story that's very passionate and strong, and you're crying there and you're looking at everyone around. Even in that moment when it's actually important, it's awkward. You know, when you're like sitting in a circle of like I don't mean to say it's only awkward because none of them care about Livia. I just mean this situation is awkward in general.
And they capture it perfectly.
Yep.
And it's something that's not ever talked about enough.
No, The Big Lebowski catches it really well too. In that moment where they're in the room, when the guy's trying to jack him for money, and I've been in that situation too, where it's like you're charging me for what? You're jacking up what? I'm bereaved. I'm not an idiot. You know, I think almost everyone uses that line from that movie. Would a top 10 funniest moments get you a copyright? No, I could do something like that. Matt and I maybe could do that as a side video at some point in time towards the end of this series, like our top 10 funniest Sopranos moments. That'll probably get more views than any one of our podcasts.
Yeah.
If we make it all buzzworthy. Hey everybody, this is Phil the Issues Guy with Matt, getting our top 10 funniest Sopranos moments.
Number 10.
AJ Soprano in the pool. That's horrible. But it was funny. Okay, so I don't know.
You could play any scene between Junior and Tony in like a doctor's office, and it's the funniest 3 minutes of you've ever seen. Oh, this here.
Oh yeah, she just talked. And if people don't remember, this is the woman that got hit by a car, that Livia hit with a car. But I do agree with what she's saying here. There are some friends that are like this. I don't know if I almost feel like I'm this to a couple people, that like whenever anyone passes or anything horrible happens, there's certain people you just call and tell. They're the people you call and are like I'm calling this. I have to call this person. I have to talk to this person. We have a mutual friend named. We have a couple mutual friends that are just like that too. Like our friend Brett is like that. If something bad happens, he'll be one of the first people that will send you a message telling you. You know, regardless if you haven't talked to him in years or anything like that. There's certain people that are that person that reaches out, and even if you feel whatever about them in the moment, it's like you've known them so long that they're important to you.
Wildflowers blossom best among the rocks. Little water. She was tough.
So
She was right.
Artie, by the way, just getting
getting the fuck out of there too.
That's the reason I make videos today.
And then Tony's face through this whole thing is incredible. And then she turns it around, Tony. You want to tell her about? You just did, Janice. One of my favorite lines.
Would like to tell them how Mom saved all your childhood schoolwork and varsity letters, and none of mine are Barbara's.
You just did.
You just did.
Wrap it up, Janice.
Wrap it up. Gandolfini's so good. He's so good. And the two of them, again, I'll keep saying it, are so amazing.
I hear she didn't suffer.
This is such a great, all this is so awesome. Like every person that actually talks, starting with Hesh, it's just incredibly perfect. Till we get to Michael Imperioli, which is amazing. And obviously Carmela.
They say
Oh, here we go.
there's no two people on earth exactly the same. No two faces.
I'm just going to be quiet here for
no
this
two
part.
sets of fingerprints. But do they know that for sure? Because they would have to get everybody together in one huge space.
And the way she looks at him, like she's into it. It's so crazy, but also doesn't know if he's fully shit or not.
Right, like she's following it. She wants,
All the people who ever lived
like almost everyone's into it too. Like, and, then we see,
got no proof.
this is where they're like, what's he talking about? And then they cut out to this scene with him and Artie, and they come back in. What's great about this, they come back in, he's still talking. There's something about that device used in movies and television that works really well. If you have a character ranting and you cut away from them and you come back and they're still ranting, it just makes it seem like it's even more time and crazy than it actually is.
I guess our little secret dies with her.
This reminds me of something that I often think about, or that I don't often think about this, but you visit someone on vacation, you're going to remember every moment of that visit. If I came to visit you in Rhode Island where you are, I would remember every moment of that trip. You know, like I would remember every day of it. It would just be like Tuesday through Sunday. You'd be like, oh yeah, you were here, whatever. It was great. Like Like Artie, this is Tony fucking him over is so important to him because it's what he remembers. This is the only time this ever happened. Tony is like forgetting what happened. You know, Tony compartmentalizes stuff so much he's probably like, why are you still mad at me? Like, what's the point?
Right.
So it's like it's a line that Raul Julia says in the Street Fighter movie. To you, the day that Bison came into your town and enslaved your people and killed everyone was the greatest day. It was the most horrible day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday. You know, like, so there's a dynamic of that with Tony, where Tony is doing this shit like that to everybody. In his mind, he did something good for Artie, and what the fuck is he so pissed off?
Right.
As they come back in and he's still talking.
Crock of shit. Carmela. I'm sitting here thinking I should protect my children.
Tom, I love you, buddy. Thank you for
On the other, I'm saying to myself,
honestly having lost.
who am I setting?
Matt and I are two people that understand the importance more than anything of losing a pet. So we love you, Tom. We're glad to give you a little bit of a distraction tonight. And cheers to Kitty Tony. Kitty Tony. I don't know why. I was thinking about Tony and looking at your name, Tom, and I called you Tony. So cheers to Tony. Who's Tom? Because I'm drunk.
Minister of propaganda. We're shopping for years under the yoke of that woman. Years.
No, this guy's best moment.
Estranged us from our own daughter. Ruined. I don't know how many.
No one loves Tony more than he does too.
Yeah. Oh, he loves that she's married to Tony. And bullshit. Master of propaganda into Janice. You wanted it, you got it. And I love how Carmela is in this moment. Again, I've been at funerals and situations where
This is such a relief for Tony because Barbara's husband just said it.
Yeah.
Carmela's dad just said it. Like everyone else just said all the stuff that confirms the way he feels about her. Because part of him feeling like a shitty son has to be, am I a shitty son because I feel my mother's just fucking crazy, you know?
I love Carmel in this moment too, because again, I've seen this in real life. This is a real life moment where I've been at funeral where it's like, no, this person was a piece of like, stop it, stop the bullshit. I kind of gave a speech like that at my mother's funeral. That was like a little bit like it was bittersweet. It was like she's an awesome person, but here's the truth about her a little bit. You know, I don't know if you remember that, Matt. I know you were there, but like I gave sort of a not quite a Carmela moment, but a sort of like back and forthy kind of thing. Where I was more honest about the situation. But I love how Barbara's husband right there goes, here, you know, like, as you pointed out. And Carmela's amazing in that scene, breaking things up, and then fucking...
In the dining room, if anybody wants some.
Brought to you by Vesuvio.
And they're all from Vesuvio.
What an awkward fucking moment.
She's not going to get a, this time.
She is. I heard her in an interview on the Talking Sopranos. She's definitely nothing like that character, and she gets a little upset in the sense that that she didn't get more to do.
You must like Michael a lot better than me.
No, Tommy boy.
Oh yeah, this is unfortunately the last scene of the episode, isn't it? So this is the last moment, and he actually sheds a tear, and despite it all, and again having. And I'm making this personal at the end here, but I can't not in the sense of having a complicated relationship with my mother, and not exactly the same or to Tony Soprano, but not entirely dissimilar. Regardless of anything, even though she might have done horrible things to you, and we see it in this moment, he still misses his mom. It's still his mom. It's still the one you had. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know or don't even have.
And part of the tear is also probably for the fact that his mom was that screwed up, and he knows it, and like he's sad about the fact that you know, just how fucked up she is too.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that it's sort of a cycle that him and his family go through because of this, and it's a lot of things, and that's one of the things that Gandolfini does so well, better than almost any actor next to Marlon Brando, like. Play this like non-verbal expression sort of thing within this character. He doesn't need to, Tony Soprano most moments doesn't need to say anything. Yes, his dialogue is amazing. The voice and the texture of the character is so incredible. But really, when Tony Soprano like, just you see his face and you see his mannerisms, you know exactly what Tony is thinking. So before we start to wrap it up here, let me play a little music, and I'm going to do a little trivia loop here. So in honor of where's the song? This is, I don't often get to use this, but this is used on a different channel that I did this for, but I like an opportunity to play this every once in a while. So let's get into some Trivia! Fuck yeah! Okay, let's get into some trivia. And I won't play the whole song because that's owned by somebody else, but I will play a few seconds of it. So here we go. Let's get into a little bit of trivia from this episode. So Nancy Marchand passed away before the 3rd season, and all this is on IMDb. I'm just stealing it. I'm not making this stuff up. You can read it yourself, but I like to admit it, at least if I'm admitting it. Is that Rosie?
That is Rosie. They both look so old now, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Rosie. So Livia died. We already talked about this. The effects to make fake zombie Livia cost about $250,000 and took 2 weeks to put together.
What a waste of money.
Chase was inspired by seeing the same effect in Gladiator with Oliver Reed. Unfortunately, this was a difficult process, and the part of Livia's hair moves from one side of her head to the other side of the head, and the lighting on her face does not match the light of the room of the other characters in the room with her. Whatever. AJ Soprano is listening to Eyeless by Slipknot, which was written about Marlon Brando, which starred in The Godfather. Interesting. Tony brings his mother an audio version of the novella Omerta by Mario Puzo, the writer of The Godfather. The actor reading the book on tape in the real life is Michael Imperioli. Michael Imperioli did the audiobook narration of the book that Tony gave to his mother. And David Chase did know about that, and it's an inside joke on the series.
Look, one thing I'd say about the $250,000, I don't think HBO gives them the money to do that in season 1 or season 2. I think this is the season that now they finally have 250. They now have the budget. Okay, like season 1, it's catching on. Season 2, it's caught on. Season 3, like now they have the budget to blow, so they can waste $250,000 on that bullshit. I don't know if they do that. Certainly not season 1.
Matt, you're 100% right. And I also would say that after season 2, the show was big. After season 3, before season 4 is when the show went next level big. Even though I would say the show is at its best in the early seasons, and it does, we'll get into, as we're actually going to be watching this together here to the end, so we'll see how we feel about this on this particular rewatch. But I think universally, generally speaking, most people think that the early stuff is better, but the later stuff had more eyes on it. Similar to Breaking Bad, not about quality, but in the sense that Breaking Bad really got crazy popular. Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Lost at the top of its all those shows at the top of their popularity, big in the last 2 seasons. It was with the Gus arc in season 4 and 5 and 5B that really was the top rated seasons of Breaking Bad.
Season one of Breaking Bad doesn't hold up, I don't think. Not nearly as well as the later stuff.
2 is when it really starts being the show Towards the end of season 1 into season 2 is when it becomes the show because they got the budget and they knew they weren't going to be canceled. There was a lot of season 1 that was set up just in case that was all they got and they were going to kill Jesse and then be done with it, and then have it be like a one sort of thing and end it in the desert with him in his underwear. But whatever. Okay, so one thing we forgot to mention in there, we'll get to this in a second. While Janice plays If I Loved You, a mysterious man wearing glasses is seen in the background coming down the stairs. He looks for a moment and goes back up the stairs. Fans have theorized that the man is portraying a ghost who wandered into the shot, or is an extra that accidentally wandered into the shot. I think it's probably the latter.
I noticed that when we watched it both times, and it's crazy that's. I assumed it was someone that was supposed to be there, but
it was probably a production. It was probably an extra from like the funeral scene or something that was in there that was like walked down the stairs. Whatever, maybe, but it could have been a ghost, because I just want to skip one of these and go back. Saul Big Pussy Bum Sincero can be seen in the reflection in the mirror when Tony opens the cabinet in the wall. So could part of this episode be ghosts? Could that have been the ghost of like Johnny or his grandfather?
That's what I thought. It could have been Johnny.
I mean, maybe it could have been Johnny, because Johnny got unhealthy towards the end when they said that by the end Johnny was a shell of what he used to be. It could be what Johnny looked like before he died.
I think the guy's wearing a hat in it, like an old, like the hat that Johnny or Junior wears in like the 70s when you see him.
I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I did notice it as well, and Matt notices it, and it's here right here. So another homage to The Godfather is evident. I talked about this before, the Undertaker scene. Excuse me. One of the agents in the FBI surveillance van was reading a copy of The Internet for Dummies. Originally, David Chase didn't want to write the episode. Excuse me. However, Sopranos writer Terrence Winters convinced him he should be the one to write the goodbye episode to Livia, because a lot of the Livia-Tony relationship was based around Chase's relationship with his mother. This theme music for The Godfather 1972 is played during Livia's wake. Omerta is a popular cultural attitude and code of honoring the place's heavily importance and a deep-rooted code of silence in the mafia, non-cooperation with authorities, non-interference in the illegal actions of others. To spread around the playful nods to the Sopranos staffers in this episode, the names of the art director Scott P. Murphy and production designer Bob Shaw are tweaked into the moniker of C. Murphy Shaw, which briefly appears on screen as the name of the reporter in the newspaper article that Tony Soprano is reading. Well, that's whatever. The song played during the ending credits is I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles by Les Paul, creator of the Les Paul guitar. One of the few uses of the mentions of bells throughout the series. Meadow mentions bells when explaining the poem Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. The poem also mentions a horse and wind. The horse would later become a major plot point in the series. The wind is used and mentioned a few times throughout the series, specifically in the episode Isabella, before the attempt on Tony's life and mayhem, with the quote, sometimes I go about in pity for myself, while all the other great wind carries me across the sky. And last, one of the few uses of obvious product placement in The Sopranos, Office Depot is prominently seen in the background when should I get batteries at Office Depot?
Oh, and the Bare Naked Ladies plug. Let's put those both in there together.
Yes, you absolutely with the Bare Naked Ladies. So before we go here and wrap this up, let's play a voicemail from Phyllis. And as I mentioned before, if anyone has any questions or comments about any Sopranos stuff when you're watching this at any point in time, please do and leave a voicemail or a text at 781-990-8509. Again, that's 781-990-8509. You can leave it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I will listen to the message and make sure it's for The Sopranos, but you can do it about any television show and even general conversation starters and topics and random shit, and I'll get to it at some point. So here we go. Let's listen to this voicemail by area code 905 by our good friend Phyllis.
Hey, Phil, the Issues Guy. It's Phyllis saying hi to you and Matt and all your friends. So as I was saying in one of my emails, now that I can hear all the full episodes of Sopranos, and I have decided I'm going to binge watch the seasons one at a time. I heard season 1 last night. I heard episodes 11, 12, and 13, and you still have that video up with all of your friends. So I'm listening to that tonight. So I always think about what you talked about in the beginning, that you say you've never seen it, you've never seen the episodes. You recommend not watching it because you talk all over and shit. And so now I'm seeing the episodes, full episodes. And now I can know what you're talking about, and I'm hearing 11, 12, and 13 tonight, because I just love that. All your friends are there, and it's fun, and now I can know what you're talking about now. They heard the episodes, so listen to that, and then I'll listen to season 2. So I'm excited. I got the full episodes at last. Okay, so just wanted to say hi and talk, and I just wanted to say hi to you and Matt and all your friends. Okay, keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, for your voicemail. Definitely leave as many voicemails as you want. That is awesome. We love getting calls. And Matt and I had a lot of fun in those big, where we all could be in the same room and do that. If we could do something like that again, we would. Matt lives a little bit further away, so we can't. But we are going to get a few more people in on the discussion for a couple of episodes coming up. We're going to have our good friend, The Walking David, join us for Pine Barrens. And once we get to and then also I want to at some point maybe invite Al or Craig in as well, as they joined us before, my cousin Pete, where I can get them in on a big Zoom call with all of us to watch some of the high end episodes when we get towards the end of the season, and and I also have to work some technology stuff with Craig. Alan, I know, knows how to use Zoom right now because I do trivia with him, so I can easily get him to do that. But I don't know if Craig has a setup that's capable of it at the moment. I need to touch base with Craig and Pete to see if both of them can do it. But we'll definitely get them in on a discussion before the end of the series, especially at season finales and big sort of tentpole episodes of The Sopranos. I got to stop talking about Livia, talking about tentpoles. Dwarf Burger, thank you.
What is wrong with you?
I have problems, Matt. Dev, thank you so much. Tom himself, everyone in the chat that joined us tonight throughout the evening. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Anyone that watches this later, we really do appreciate it. We'll be back sooner rather than later. Matt and I, we won't talk about this on air, but we'll either be back next week or the following week after for another episode of The Sopranos.
Yes, our goal at the beginning of this, now it's very ambitious because as you know, we've talked about this all the time, how long it takes us. Ideally, we could get through 2 seasons
this year. Yeah,
that is 20. That's one every 2 weeks. And
Yep.
It is 26. We are already behind though because we only did 1 in January. So we're already in the middle of February and we've only got 2 episodes. So we're going to have to catch up. We can do it.
We can do it. Because I do think at some point, in retrospect, thinking about this, we probably should have done episodes. There's certain episodes we could do together. Like we should have done episodes 1 and 2 together.
Yeah, or just skipped episode 1.
Yeah, that's probably true. Everybody,
This, by the way, was. I didn't know that David Chase wrote it. It makes a lot more sense of how well, because he just knows the characters so well and knows what the overall arc is of everyone. And
yeah, and up until this point, this is definitely in my tops of Sopranos episodes. This is.
Guys, if you haven't heard this, Phil's very anti-season 3 for some reason.
I'm not anti-season 3.
I know the reason, because he's obsessed with Livia and she's gone, and he thinks it's disjointed. But this is even if it's not your favorite episode, it's one of the best, most well done episodes so far.
And Changa, great to have Changa in the live chat. Thank you for checking it out, Changa. We have I definitely will look into that. I know Twitch does watch parties and Facebook does watch parties too. I've got to figure out how to do that and how that works with copyright crap. But watch parties are basically doing a live video while the episode is actually going. Basically what we're doing now, but you can actually see the episode on screen and people can watch along with it and then just hear us talk on it. So it's a less basically what we were doing before when we had the mirror there, but like actually within the system. We might need to. I know Twitch does it through Amazon. I don't know if they can do it through HBO Go too. That's the only thing I need to figure out some of the logistics of it. But I will look into that. Awesome suggestion, Changa. Thank you so much. And everyone, if you haven't already and you enjoyed this shit, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, share the channel with a friend, help us grow. And also I want to mention, if you want to keep the discussion going, we have a Discord group. You can find the link in the description box below to that. And also I have a Twitch channel, which is basically Phil the Issues Guy on Twitch. That'll be doing some video game streaming there and also maybe doing some simulcasting for some of the stuff we're doing.
You have been very busy since the last time I saw you, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I've been trying to trying to do more stuff, and but yes. So and we might end up doing a watch party for a Soprano episode there because I know watch party is one of the things that's built into that system. So I just need to find a way to screen the particular episode. So maybe we'll try that at a point in time too. So if you're a fan of our Sopranos casts, also follow me on Twitch at Phil the Issues Guy there, and we can see if we can do some watch parties over there. So Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was
a good.
I love season 3, so I'm glad to be in it. I think you're going to have a different feeling about season 3 watching it and really going through the episodes.
Yeah, it's been a while because of my repetition watching it, because of owning those DVDs and watching season 3 more than any other season, and some of the disjointedness because of my Livia fanboyism and the storyline change of basically being really excited about the idea of Livia testifying against Tony and wanting to have seen that storyline. I do project some negativity on and the Jackie Jr. factor, but I do think season 3 has some of the best episodes of The Sopranos.
Bobby Bacala's dad. That's coming up, season 3.
Another Toothpick, I believe that's called. I believe
Another
that. I believe. Okay. I think that because Janice. No, maybe that's a different episode. Because Another Toothpick is that's another great episode where Junior finds out he's sick and Janice is like, they go to some funeral and Janice turns to Tony and is like, oh, that person's sick too. Another toothpick. That's what Ma used to say, talking about like sick people. That's just another toothpick. So yeah. on that note, this has been a very uplifting episode of The Sopranos. And that...
Let's talk about it, how awkward everything is when someone dies.
Yeah, this episode's just about being awkward in death. But everyone, thank you so much for checking it out. Definitely check out all the links, all the description box shit on where you can find some more stuff. As I mentioned, Discord and Twitch. I will be on here again next week, one way or another, either with Matt or on a Tuesday night for a roundup kind of stream. I'll be doing some video game streaming right now. I am streaming Link's Awakening for the Switch, if you want to check that out on Twitch. And I might do some more tonight since it's still kind of early. I might do a couple of hours after this. I got to see how I feel after I eat something. But if not, I will be on this weekend on Teflon TV at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday talking the latest episode of WandaVision. That'll be weekly, every week with myself, Tony, and Alicia. We'll be talking about WandaVision every week, and I'll probably be popping up on Tony's After Dark stream on Friday or Saturday evening. So if you haven't subscribed to Teflon TV, do that as well. Hey, Phil, you got to check out Wakefield Cranston. It's dope. Weird little movie. I will check that out. Tom, send me a private message about that to remind me, because I am I forget things sometimes, so I forget things. Matt, I'll see you in 2 weeks or next week. One way or another, we'll figure it out afterwards. Everyone, as always, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys next time. Later.